So, good morning to you all. Today we are going to start our third lecture on law of taxation. In the previous lecture, we have studied about the constitutionality of taxation laws in India, and now in this lecture, we are going to discuss about only the nature of the income tax, nature of tax. So, yes, the nature and scope of tax. First of all, let us cover about the definition of the tax. So this definition was given is in Commissioner Hindu Religious Endowments versus Shri Lakshmindra Tirtha Swamiya in 1954. So the tax is a compulsory X action of money by the state for public purposes, enforceable by law, and without direct quid pro quo system. Suppose we have let me give you an example of fees. We have a for which fees is only paid for that work which work you desire to be completed, but tax is x section of money, compulsory x section of money by state for public purposes. It is not quid pro quo system. Something for something is not applicable in tax. I cannot say that I demand from the state that I have paid the tax. I demand something in return of the tax. So that the definition of fees is directly covered in direct quid pro quo system. So tax is compulsory statutory X action imposed by the sovereign authority for public purposes without direct quid pro quo forming part of general revenue of the state. So key aspects of nature of taxation. First aspect, I think you can also answer this question on directly. First aspect is it is a complete compulsory contribution. So no direct consent is required. Sanctions for non-payment, like imposing penalties. So it is a legal mandatory payment, not a voluntary donation. Sovereign power. So it is an inherent power of the state to raise funds for public purposes. No direct quid pro quo. Taxpayers do not receive a specific equivalent benefit in return for their payment. So, this is a key distinction between a tax and a fee or a price. I have already told you difference between a tax and a fee. Example is paying your income tax does not entitle you to a specific purpose, like your driver license or a passport. Your tax money goes directly into general fund and is used for a wide range of public services that you may or may not directly use. So fourth aspect is legislative function. Taxes are enacted by a legislative authority, not by executive fiat. Personal obligation. It is personal obligation of the person to pay the tax. While often based on property or income, it is a personal responsibility of the citizen. Regularity. It is continuous rather than one-time payment. You cannot say I paid the tax last year. I cannot pay the tax this year. The income is generated in those financial year. That income is to be counted for paying your tax. For example, high taxes on tobacco and alcohol. These are sin taxes designed to discourage the consumption. Tax incentives for research or green energy designed to encourage specific investment or behaviors. Protective tariffs, taxes on imports designed to protect domestic industries from foreign competition. So, nature of tax. What it is? The question arises what it is? What is being taxed? This refers to the essential character or the subject of the levy. It answers the question what is being taxed? Characteristics. It is the foundation of the tax. It is defined by the legislature and is generally a clear concept. Like income, sale of goods. Whenever you perform any sale of good, there is certain tax to be paid. Entertainment, interest received. These all are defined by legislature. It is what the taxing power has the authority to impose. Example from the text. Income tax is a tax on income. Its nature is to levy a charge on the income earned by an entity. So measure of tax, the yardstick, how to measure it, what it is, how much tax should be paid. This measure of tax refers to the method, mechanism, or yardstick used to quantify the tax liability. It answers the questions how much tax should be paid. So, the basic characteristics are it is a tool for calculation and can be flexible. Every year, a new financial act is being passed by the legislature, so it has the flexibility in this. The legislature has significant flexibility in choosing the measure. It does not alter the fundamental character of the levy, even if the yardstick resembles something used in a different type of tax. Certain examples are quoted here. The example is House Property Interest Tax Act 1974. So, income from the house property. To measure the tax on income from the house property, the Income Tax Act uses the annual value of a building as a yardstick. The tax is still on income, but it is measured by the property's value. That is why the house property, income from the house property tax increases after certain years. So Interest Tax Act 1974. The tax is levied on the gross receipt of interest. This is its nature. However, to measure this receipt, one might look at the income it generates. The text clarifies that using income as a yardstick does not convert this tax into an income tax. So next is nature of tax and difference between nature of tax and measure of tax. The nature is itself a subject. The nature of a tax is what tax is legally imposed upon. This water bottle is being used. This item, this thing can be used as a tax. But how to measure that how much tax is to be generated from this water bottle? That is measure. So measure is merely a method or yardstick used to calculate the amount of tax owed. Courts have consistently held that measure does not determine the nature. It is simply a tool for quantification. There is a difference between nature of tax and the measure of tax. So, court's interpretation. Method of recovery is not decisive. How a tax is collected or calculated does not determine what tax actually is. Hingir Rampur Coal Company Limited versus State of Odisha. It's a 1961 case. Flexibility in quantification. Yeah, legislature has full flexibility in quantification of a tax. Defining the subject of tax is straightforward, but figuring out how to measure it is complex. Therefore, the courts give the legislature more flexibility in choosing the method of measurement. The chosen method is just one factor in understanding the text and not defining the factor. It was held in state of West Bengal versus Kesoram Industries in 2004. So distinction from other government levies. So what are the other government levies such as fees, penalties, toll, special assessment, etc. There are other levies also. So a difference between fees and a tax is already been told. Fees is the direct quid pro quo, a passport fee or a court filing fee. So penalty, a punishment or fine for an illegal act. Its best example is your traffic challans. Its purpose is to deter unlawful behavior, not to raise revenue. Toll, a charge for the use of a specific public facility like a road or bridge. The payment is directly linked to the use of that facility. Special assessment, a levy on property owners who benefit directly from a public improvement. Example, a new sidewalk, a sewer line. The tax, the benefit is specific and localized, unlike the general benefit of a tax. The municipal corporation charges you certain fees for the maintenance of sewer line, of a new sidewalk, creation of new sidewalk. This all covers from under special assessment. So tax versus fee versus cess. So here the other term is cess. Cess is an additional tax on tax levied for a specific purpose. Educational cess, where whoever has filed an income tax or a tax must have given 4% educational cess. So the purpose of that tax or the cess is specified that it will be used for this purpose only and cannot be used for other general purposes. It is expired when once the goal is met. So these are the natures of the taxation. So let's cover about the scope. What literally the scope means? Scope is a circle. Suppose there is a circle and that circle limits its boundaries. So whatever inside the circle is, area inside the circle is the scope, and whatever is not inside the circle, the outer line of the circle is the boundary. So that is not covered under that scope. So we will discuss what are the scope of tax in India. So scope basically means boundary versus coverage versus applicability. So in as reference to the taxation is given, scope refers to the extent and coverage of taxation power. What can be taxed, who can impose tax, and who is liable to pay, and territorial application. Obviously, the Lex Loci law will provide the territorial application, and we have already studied in the first lecture on territorial application. So the constitutional basis provide for Article 265 tax only by authority, 246 distribution of legislative power, 7th schedule union, state and concurrent list. So 7th schedule is very much important because the definition of agricultural income, when we will study the definition of agricultural income, we will study it very deeply, and why the central government cannot put income tax, cannot put agricultural income in tax, because it's in the state list. Article 246 has been introduced, which contains GST power. So types of taxes within scope, direct taxes and indirect taxes. I think this is a very big topic, so we will cover in our next lecture. Stay safe, stay healthy. I hope we have discussed it. So that's the end of the this lecture, and we will continue with our next lecture on direct taxes and indirect taxes.